Hi, welcome to Lecture 1. I'm out here in southwestern Virginia up above Craig Creek and wanted to just share with you a few items that I think might be helpful as we begin our process of field journaling together. First, I want to suggest that this course is designed for a whole range of students, from conservation biologists to teachers to artists, people who really want to capture the world around them with that sort of artistic flair. And that's great. Hopefully I've constructed it in a way that allows space for each of you to do the kind of work that you want to do. If you go to a bookstore or go online and look for field journaling or nature journaling guides, you'll see that the trend today is towards really beautiful images. John Muir Laws is probably the most well-known current practitioner and teacher of nature journaling. I don't use his work in his class because it's my sense that really beautiful, detailed pictures intimidate us. And as Claire Walker Leslie, who helped design this course years ago, always says, it's not art, it's Pictionary. I just want this process of sketching and taking notes to enhance your degree of observation. And that doesn't have to be a beautiful picture. So for example, you'll see in this, this is from Arizona, I guess 2 summers ago. I was out and I saw this lizard and I was trying to capture it. And you'll see that my first couple attempts to capture its shape were not effective. And so I included notes here that, says the body is longer than it was in this one, or that there was a subtler ridge of scales below on the sides, which I hadn't captured first. Finally, I got something that I was happy enough. That is a process captured on this page, as opposed to a product, a beautiful representation. Now, if you want to go ahead and work towards a beautiful representation, that's great. But frequently, the feedback I give students in this class is, I want to see the process in all of its messiness, so that I can give advice about other things to pay attention to or other ways to represent, that sort of thing. So that's step 1. It's not art, it's Pictionary. So go ahead and be messy. Now you'll notice that I've got a pretty good sized sketch pad here. Let's see, I've got a couple of other sizes here. This is a pretty common size for a field journal. I used this size for many years. In my pocket, I carry a little notebook for when I don't have my big journal with me, and I'll take some notes there. But I'll tell you why I've ended up using a larger sketch pad. And that's because the first time I ever took a workshop with Claire Leslie, I was out in the woods in Franconia Notch, New Hampshire, trying to sketch a caterpillar. And I was counting the number of stripes, the brown, actually kind of auburn versus black stripes, and trying to get them in on a small page, and I just couldn't get all the details in. So I started again in a notebook about this size, and I sketched that caterpillar 3 times its actual size and tried to add more detail. It still wasn't enough. Finally, I ended up borrowing a larger page from somebody and made that caterpillar 10 times its normal size, and then I could start to get in the detail. And of course, I would write on it that it was like 3 times its actual size, or in a case like this, I'm actually reducing instead of magnifying. But this bundle of ponderosa pine needles, I've included scale here to note that that's 6 to 7 inches long, where on my my page it's about 2.5 or 3 inches long. So larger is helpful, but I guess what I want to say is keep it simple. I've had students before, we'll just go into a recycling bin, take out a bunch of paper, staple it together, and use that. And that and a pen or a pencil is really all you need to be successful in this course, because this course is about teaching us to pay attention and to record our observations in a way that enables intimacy with our neighbors around us. I will say that although I've used pen most of my life, pen can smear, so a mechanical pencil is a good way to go. You'll notice I've added color. I do, excuse me, I've just got stuff lying on the ground here. I do carry with me colored pencils. You're not required to do that, but you can get them. Actually, most dollar stores would have some little box of colored pencils. It's great to be able to provide color, both because it encourages another level of attention and it really brings things to life. In some cases, I won't go to another page on that. I'll end up, as I get ready to sketch something, using 4 or 5 different pencils and just making little, I don't know what I'll call them, colored patches, I guess, next to that to be able to, yeah, here's an example here on this particular, I think that might be a mint. Yeah, a creek mint. I've got this green and this green and this green and this green. I'm trying to find the right green there. And so just that level of paying attention can be really useful. But keep it simple. As long as we're talking about gear, let's talk about phones for just a moment. Phones are great. I will often take pictures of different species when I don't have a journal with me, or even if I do, which allows me to go back and get a sense of what I'm looking at. But then I'll want to come back with a journal and pay that kind of attention. Because if you just snap a picture of something with a journal, and maybe you've even got an app, you can look it up and say, oh yeah, that's a mountain laurel, and move on. And nothing has occurred in that process that necessarily imprints that identification, that intimacy onto you. You can just look it up any old time you need, so you don't need to get to know anything more about that plant. For me, that's just the start. Once I've identified it, once I've sketched it, noticed things, noticed the serrations or lack thereof on the leaves, how many veins on the leaves, where they come out from the stalk, are they light on the bottom, or are they fuzzy, that sort of thing. Once I've written down all of these clues that allow me to begin to identify something, then I start to ask questions about its ecological ideal conditions. Why is it growing here? What does it like about this place? What is there about the aspect of the hillside, about the soil here, about the other plants around it, its neighbors? And that's where we begin to get into this level of ecological intimacy that allows us to get to know our neighbors. You know, some of us may have grown up in neighborhoods with a grouchy old man at the end of the street, or something like that. That's just an example here. And as long as he's just the grouchy old man that you don't want to go across his yard, he remains somewhat abstract. But maybe over time we hear stories about him. Oh, that's Ed. He used to work at the Freightliner plant, retired years ago. His wife passed away 5 or 6 years ago. He's got kids, but they live in Ohio. He begins to take on a greater dimensionality. And then if we actually begin to interact with Ed, maybe we offer to mow his lawn or to bring him something that we have extra of at our house, and we have a conversation, that level of familiarity grows and enables an actual relationship. And that's what I hope happens in this class, is that curiosity, observation leads to familiarity, which leads to a relationship. That we, as humans, no longer conquerors, but plain members and citizens of the land community, begin to create authentic relationships with the other species around us. Let me see if there's anything else I want to mention. I'd like to keep this fairly short. References as you're trying to identify plants. I want to go through that process together in this class. So please go to the Any Questions and say, hey, here's this information that I've written down about this particular species, but I can't figure out how to identify it from here. If we go through that process together, we're all learning from that. Also, one of the things about using a phone that I find really useful is it's got a compass on it, and that tells us the altitude that we're at as well, and that's useful information. That's a part of the ecological context. But knowing the direction is really important to me. You'll see that I've included a couple of readings in the first week about how different people around the world do have access to an innate sense of direction that we have lost largely in our society, because it's not important for us anymore to know what direction we're looking. I thought when I started recording this video that I was looking west, and then I double-checked and realized, no, I'm looking more northwest. Why is that important? Because the things that grow on a north aspect of a slope are going to be different from the things that grow on the sunnier south aspect of a slope, up here in the northern hemisphere at least. Those kinds of things are worth getting to know. And I think that we can recover those lost abilities. I've been trying to do that for years, and I'm doing better. It's taken a long time, but it can be a lifelong process. What else are you going to do with this life? There's lots of things, obviously, we can, but a part of that can be to learn what it means to be at home in a place. As I wrap things up, let me just say this about finding an observation spot. I want you to find a place that has the potential to surprise you. I mentioned earlier in the welcoming video, unmanaged landscapes, quote-unquote wild landscapes. Well, that's great if you have easy access to places like that and are comfortable in those places. But a part of recognizing my privilege has been coming to the understanding that not everybody is comfortable in places that I am. And I want you to find a place where you feel safe. For some of you, maybe that means taking a friend out with you as you go out to journal. And I would only ask, I think that's a great idea, but I would ask that you make the request of your friend, hey, I'm going to spend the next half an hour down on my hands and knees looking at this plant here, and it's going to really help me not to be distracted. So have your friend bring along a book or their own sketch pad or journal or whatever it may be, and then get close to that plant. You will find, I think, that you lose yourself in the excitement of really getting familiar, paying close attention to other beings. So that's one way of feeling safe. For other people, it may be finding a place that you know lots of people are going to be around. And if those other people are not distracting you, that's fine. For others, it may be going to your backyard, going to your garden. I really do encourage you, though, to look for those species that were not deliberately introduced into that place, so that we can begin to get a sense of who is it that wants to live in this place. Not who is it that we have decided is going to live in this place, but who is drawn to this place. So if you've got a garden, pay attention to those weeds. I know the pleasure of weeding. Sounds weird, but I've spent many happy hours weeding. But use that as an opportunity to closely identify those plants that are coming into your managed space and get to know, oh, okay, these are some plants that live around here. They love these conditions too. I think I'm going to stop there because I really want to keep this short, but I can't wait to get into the process of discovering together what it means to pay attention and to become a plain member and citizen of the particular communities that we live in. So I'm going to stop it right there and wish you all the best and look forward to talking with you in the discussions. All right, take care.